Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jeff Harrell, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. We're here to answer your questions, so please use the chat window for questions, and we'll answer them at the end of the demo. And now, I'd like to introduce our speaker, our co-founder and CEO, Yuri Sagalov.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone, depending on where you're dialing in from. Thank you for joining us this morning. And before I really dive into the webinar, what we're going to cover today is a couple of things. So we're going to check and introduce the concept of Amium to you, and I really want to explain what it is and as well as show you a live demo with the product. But first, I really want to go a little bit over why did we build Amium and show you a little bit of the motivation behind it. And so what I want to start with is a little bit of conversation about how do we collaborate today. And so today, when we talk about collaboration, particularly around file sharing or things like that, what we think about is a process that looks something similar to this. So first, you create a file, whether it's a Word file, a Photoshop file, a PDF, something else. And then you work on this file and you save the file to your collaboration tool, whether it's a Dropbox or Box or a tool like AeroFS or another one. And in theory, we feel like now we're done. Right, the file is saved, you're able to collaborate, syncing and collaboration is happening, everyone is happy. But in practice, what happens is that once you've saved the file to the collaboration tool, now you actually need to share it with someone. And the way that that happens to this day is either over email, so you attach it as a file attachment and do all the collaboration back and forth there, or you send it in a chat tool and do all of the collaboration over the chat tool. And that often looks like something like this. So for example, Jeff, our VP Marketing, sent me a couple of screenshots that he needed me to approve. And we did this back and forth where he sent me a couple more iterations. And then finally, in the end, I sent off an approval. But throughout that entire process, all of the iterations actually lived over email. And maybe he saved the final iteration back into the file sharing tool. Another example that happened to us is at some point we were doing a new logo design, and rather than sending the logo over email, he kind of just said, hey, can you go find it in this particular path? I saved it there. As we started adopting more real-time communication tools, we moved a little bit away from email, but the overall process was the same. I would upload a file, somebody would work on it, upload another version of the file, and all of that collaboration was actually happening completely outside of the collaboration tool and actually in the communication tool. And so what's happening is something that looks a little bit like this. You create the file, work on it, and then all of the iteration would actually happen completely out of band with the file sharing tool itself. So you would do V1 through V6 completely outside of the file sync and share tool. And we asked our users and customers about, why was this happening? And one of the consistent pieces of feedback that we would get is that it's great that you have this file sync and share tool, and I'm able to access my files on every device. But what I really need to be able to do is I need to be able to have a conversation around those files. I need to be able to see what the updates are, iterate on them, provide feedback, and have a conversation directly in the same tool. And I just can't do that in a file sync and share tool. So I end up bringing the conversation to the file, or bringing the file to wherever I'm having the conversation, rather. So if I'm an email user, the files end up in email. If I'm a chat or SMS user, the file ends up in chat or SMS. Until maybe the final version actually ends back up in the collaboration tool. And so we built Amium because we wanted to bring conversations to the files. We wanted to let you have that iteration loop completely without actually leaving the application. And so that is exactly what Amium does. Amium brings conversations to the files. And so I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots, and then I'm actually going to jump into a demo. But to begin with, Amium builds directly on top of our file sync and share layer. And what it does is it adds something that looks at first glance like chat. You have chat rooms, direct conversations, group conversations. But one of the biggest differences is that for us, every chat room actually maps directly to a shared folder. And so if you place a file inside of that shared folder, that file also appears inside of your chat room. And as you make updates to that file, Those updates appear in real time as a threaded conversation inside of the chat room. And so what you can see here happening right now, in the previous slide, we had a marketing chat room where we added a Deck Quarter 3 presentation. Excuse me, you can even see the Deck Quarter 3 presentation over here on the left as a file thread, and I can click on it and see everything that's happening inside of that file thread. I can then see all the versions that are happened and have been updated to that file, as well as the conversation that happened around that file in real time. So who chatted about it, who updated, any additional information that was provided, and all of that conversation happens in real time inside of the product without ever having to leave the application. And so what that looks like in real life is a little bit like this. So I'm actually going to switch away from the presentation and show you the product live. And so we'll take 1 second and we'll just switch to sharing my desktop. And what you can see right now is this is the Amium application in real life with our team. And this is a product that we're using extensively internally. We have a number of channels, including design, general, marketing, operations, and sales. And many of these channels actually have shared folders associated with it. So you can see these little arrows on the left here. And what I can do is I can click on an arrow and actually see all the files that are associated with the marketing share folder. And I can even open the marketing share folder and actually see the same files and folders directly in here, synced and updated in real time. And so, for example, I can click on the presentation that I'm doing right now. So let's say the analyst presentation. And I can see that Jeff added it on August 30th, and then we had a conversation around it yesterday where we did a couple of updates. So Jeff did some updates, I did an update, and he actually did 2 more updates. And all of that was captured along with the conversation directly inside of Amium. Now, we actually go a step further. We don't just let you sync and have conversations around these files. For many of these files, we actually let you have real-time collaboration around them. So for example, if you're a Word, Excel, or PowerPoint user, you can actually co-author and edit files directly in real time from within Amium. And what that looks like is I can actually click on Edit in Microsoft PowerPoint Online, which brings us to PowerPoint Online, which is almost like a Google Docs-like experience. So I and Jeff and anybody else on our team can actually work on this file in real time together. And we have the full power of PowerPoint without ever having to install it on our desktop. The other thing that we allow you to do is we actually allow you to interact with the presentation directly from inside of Amium. So for many of these files, you will actually be able to see real-life previews, interactive previews, directly from within Amium. And that's true for documents like PowerPoint, but it's also true for documents like Word or sales agreements or things like that. So for example, if we look at our forms and we take a look at our confidentiality agreement for consultants, I can actually see a full preview of this agreement directly in here. When was it added? Who updated it? Who worked on it? And so on. And similarly, I can actually edit it online. Now, one of the other things that is very interesting with a product like this are the integrations that you're able to do. So Office Online is obviously one integration, but one of the other integrations that we built right into Amium is the ability to sign documents or sign agreements or send agreements for signature directly without leaving the application. And what that looks like is something like this. So right now we're looking at the confidentiality agreement. And what I can do is I can actually go ahead and click Flash Sign and pop up a window that will create a signature request that I can send to somebody like Jeff or someone else to sign. So let's say John Doe, john@amium.com. We click Continue, and I can specify the fields that I need them to sign. So let's say I need them to provide their name over here, and I need them to provide their date over here, and on the very last page I want them to provide a signature, and we'll just say that right here. And so what I can do right now is I will send it along with a quick note and say, hey, I really need you to sign this, and once they've signed it, we will get notification back around the product and without ever having to leave the application. So all of this we're able to do completely from within Amium. And of course, you can do this on desktop. You get a very similar experience on mobile. You get a very similar experience on web, and so on and so forth. So just jumping in back to the deck, we talked a little bit about the various slides and various interactions that we're able to do with PowerPoint presentations, with Word documents. But we've actually built a number of other integrations directly into Amium. And so if you're a developer, we have integrations with Jira and GitHub for you. If you're on the marketing team, we have integrations with MailChimp. If you're on the sales team, we have integrations with HelloSign and Office and many, many more. Now, one of the most interesting things that happens when you're using a product like Amium is that you're capturing a lot of information. You're capturing all the conversations, you're capturing all the files, and you're capturing all the file content. And so for us, search is at the heart of what we do. And specifically, we index every file, every conversation, and we make it all accessible to the team. And what that looks like is something like this. So when you search for something like working file, we're able to show you all the conversations that have ever mentioned that particular keyword. But we're also able to show you all the files, the file names, as well as in many cases, files where that content actually appears inside of the file. So in the case of Word, Excel, text documents, and many other files, we can actually index the documents and make it available for you so that you can see the contents directly from here. And so all of this you're able to do directly from within Amium. You never have to switch applications. And in a lot of ways, this really becomes the first place you go to search for various information. And as I mentioned, this is available today. You can sign up for it on www.amium.com. You can start using it directly on the web or on desktop. And we also have a client available for both Android and iOS. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Yuri. We do have a few questions that came in. The first one is, how does Amium work for large teams or companies?
So that's a great question. And Amium works really, really well for both large teams and companies. You can either use one account for your whole organization, or you could actually use separate accounts for different teams within your organization. Amium is built on top of our RFS technology, which has already been deployed at companies with thousands of employees, and so it scales very nicely to large organizations as well.
Great. Next question is, can you explain the file versioning again? Do you mean Amium handles all the file versions?
Right. So Amium does handle all the file versions, and what I mean by that is that anytime you actually make a change to a file, it gets captured inside of Amium. And so I can actually show you this right here. This is from the slides. So what's happening here is this is the Deck Quarter 3 presentation, and it was created on May 7th at 12:27 by Adeline. It was then updated at 12:41 by Edward, and then it was finally updated again by Adeline at 2:05. At any point in time, you can actually jump back to that version and see what that version was, retrieve it, make that the current version, or see what the conversation was around that version as well. So not only do we just capture the file versions, we also capture the full version history around it as well. So you're able to see why was the version created, not just what is the version itself.
Got it. The next question just came in. We use GitHub and HelloSign and a few others on your list. How do we set these up?
So we have an integrations page, and to do that, I'm actually going to switch back to my desktop, and I'm going to share the desktop, and I'll show you right now. Let me close the HelloSign window. So we can go over here, and we can actually go to App Integrations, and all of the integrations are available directly from here. What you're also able to do is you're actually able to create custom integrations. You don't have to go with one of the integrations available in our app directory. And all of them are very straightforward to set up. So you can either set it up or get a developer on your team to set it up. But in most cases, you'll actually be able to set it up completely yourself.
Very good. Okay, and looks like the last question we have is, how does the Office Online integration work?
So the Office Online integration is something that we have enabled by default. And what that means is that as soon as you sign up for Amium, you immediately have it. You don't need to have any Microsoft credentials or anything like that. And all you do is you just save a Word document into Amium, and you can start working on it. And in fact, you can actually create, and I'm going to switch back to my desktop, sorry, just one more time, because what I want to show is you can actually create new documents directly from within Amium. So if you want to create a new Word document, new PowerPoint document, new Excel document, you can do it directly from here. And what that will do is it will prompt us to create a new doc that we will then be working on directly in Word Online. And someone inside of the operations team could actually join us and start working on this document directly with us. Now, the only thing I want to emphasize is that I've done a lot of talking about Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but Amium is not just for those file types. It does work with almost every single file type. So one thing I didn't show you, but our design team uses Amium a fair bit, and we have a lot of files in here that are not Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. So we have files like PDF that describe our brand. We have Photoshop files, we have InDesign files, and so on, and they all allow us to actually interact and see the versions and see the history of those files in real time. So it doesn't have to be Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. But for Office Online specifically, you're able to use it as soon as you start using Amium, either through here or by uploading existing documents and starting to interact with them that way.
Great. Thanks, Yuri. So that'll conclude our webinar. If we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up via email right after the call. And if you haven't downloaded Amium, please do so. It only requires an email address. You'll be in there setting up your team in minutes. Email us at hello@amium.com with any questions or feedback. Thanks, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.